Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm back. I am finally back. Did you guys miss me? Once again, I apologize for my absence this weekend. However, Mother Nature is a bitch, and she hit me with a bug. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the cold. I don't know if it was the flu, whatever the hell it was. I think I got the thing pretty much licked. Fingers are crossed, knock on wood, because I don't want, wake up in the morning with the Ebola virus. But anyway, I think I pretty much got this thing licked. I'm feeling a hell of a lot better. Thank you all who sent get well wishes, and for those of you who were more concerned with your precious videos than my personal well-being, you know what you can do with yourself. But with that said, I'm feeling a hell of a lot better, enough so that I can bring you this week's Sons of Anarchy episode review right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. Once again, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Sons of Anarchy episode review. First and foremost, before I get into the review, I want to take this time to thank you all. Thank you all so much for making my Sons of Anarchy Season 4 premiere video, my first Sons of Anarchy episode review, my number 13th most viewed video on my channel, and I believe it is the fastest, or rather the most viewed video within the first week since my Game of Thrones reviews have ended. So I want to thank you all so much for that. Last time I checked, it had over like 9,000 views within the first week. So I want to thank you all so much for that. But with that said, let's go ahead and let's jump into this episode review. Now, this is Season 4, Episode 2, entitled Booster. Now, just to recap what happened last week. Give me a minute. Gotta make sure I take, gotta take my water, gotta take my medicine. As the saying goes, feed the cold, drown the flu. Yeah, I've pretty much been, look at the size of this thing. This is like a 34 ounce. I've been killing the shit out of this. But anyway, jumping into the review. Okay, to recap what happened in last week's episode. Okay, pretty much the Suns got out. They pretty much got their first taste of the new Charming. Now that Charming has a new mayor, a new sheriff. Charming PD is under a new sheriff's department, and as far as I know, they still do not know of the assistant attorney that is now in Charming, that's doing the private investigation, the secret investigation, if you will. I don't think they still know about they don't know about him yet, but pretty much this Jax and gang, they're out of prison, they're back in Charming, and they set up a new deal with the Russians as far as their whole gun trafficking and all that bit. However, we saw at the end of last week's episode that they turned on the Russians, and that new deal completely got X'd out. They just took them completely out of the equation. Now, a lot of you commented on last week's review where you're like, Larry, you didn't talk about the undercover agent that was with the Russians. Yeah, I did that intentionally. I didn't want to give out everything that fucking happened in last week's episode. I mean, honestly, that was the big twist from last week's episode. So I didn't want to give that away. Excuse me. But anywho, so this week's episode opens up with the assistant attorney and the sheriff. They find the Russian bodies that were placed at the construction site for Charming Heights, which of course that was Clay's doing. So they pretty much what goes on with the assistant attorney. Because he lost his man, his inside man. So he's pretty much he's playing it by ear right now. He's sitting back because he didn't expect that to happen at all. He did not expect that to happen at all. So he's sitting back and he's watching the board. He's watching how the Suns operate. He's watching what what's going to occur after the death of these Russians. So that's what he's doing. He's playing it cool, and he's secretly strategizing. Okay. The sheriff, however, got pressured by Mayor Hal, and so this prick, towards the end of this week's episode, decided to renovate the Suns clubhouse. Yeah, that was a bitch move on his part. That was a bitch move on his part. Anyway, let's move on to the Suns now. Now, what the Suns have been up to in this episode, pretty much the big thing going on in this week's episode is that Clay and Jax, they meet up with Alvarez, who is the president of the Mayans motorcycle club, who back in like season 1 and at the beginning of season 2 were a rival club of the Suns. However, for the majority of season 2 and for all of season 3, they've pretty much, they've patched things up, and they've been a very helpful and very useful ally. So Alvarez has put Clay and Jax in touch with the cartel. Now, I know what a cartel is, or I have an idea of what a cartel is. But pretty much, to dumb things down in blatant terms, they put Clay and Jax in touch with Danny Trejo. Finally got it pronounced. Thank you all who commented in last week's review, giving me the proper pronunciation of his name. But Danny Trejo character, he appeared in this week's episode, the character of Romeo, and he is pretty much, right now, he is the Suns' biggest gun buyer, and he is also going to be supplying them with cocaine. Now, here's the thing with the cartel that I'm kind of meh around. It is my understanding that a cartel is a transporting service, thus the key term cart. It's a transporting service. Now, apparently, we find out in this week's episode, along with Jax and the rest of the fucking club, that Clay has set this deal up when they were still in prison. Apparently, the Suns are going to be selling guns to Romeo and his crew. And in return, they are going to take up the duty of transporting cocaine from Romeo's crew to various buyers throughout Charming and throughout Northern California. Now, they won't be selling it, but they are the transporters. I think that's the gist of the deal. I could be wrong on that, but keep in mind this review is based off of a one viewing of the episode, so I believe that's what's going on. Now, the problem with that is this. The Suns have never been in the drug trafficking business. Guns, yes. Drugs, no. I mean, the Suns have done everything from gun trafficking. They've done hits. They've done kidnappings. They've done, they were in the porn business for a while. But they've never done drugs. They've never done drugs, and for the longest time, their stamp on that has always been to keep the drugs out of Charming. To keep the drugs out of Charming, and what drugs they do allow in Charming, they make sure that they monitor that shit. Excuse me. So it changes things a bit, because now they're going to be responsible for bringing in a bunch of blow into Charming. Jax, of course, is number one immediately against this. He's pissed off that Clay made this deal back in prison without telling anyone, keeping everyone else out of the fucking loop. However, he makes a deal with Clay. He says, all right, check this out. I'll back you on this whole cartel bit. However, you have to allow me to step down along with you when it's time for you to step away from the club. You have to let me go as well. Now, I did not expect that to happen this soon, in the season. I was surprised by that. I didn't expect that to happen this soon. But Clay agreed. And he did so pretty much because he was desperate. He had to. He had no choice. Because he knew that if they were going to take a vote, you know, with the rest of the club, it was going to be pretty damn hard. It was going to be pretty damn hard to get a majority vote if the ranks were divided between, you know, if him and Jax were divided on this. It was pretty damn hard to get a vote on it. And we saw in the fucking clubhouse when they were at the table doing the vote, most of them were against it. If Jax would have opposed Clay at that table, they would have voted in Jax's favor. So you know, I mean, Jax saw it as an even trade. But one thing that I did like that Jax mentioned, he said that when you step down, you have to let me step down as well, and you have to back my vote for Opie as the new prez. I like that because honestly, I think Opie is the only one who could step up as the next prez. If it's not going to be Jax, Opie, shit, he's the only other apparent heir in the club, because Opie, for my Sons of Anarchy fans, you all know Opie is a second generation son. He is Piney's son, who is one of the original 9. So Opie, brilliant idea. That's perfect fucking choice. And I support it. 100%. Now, okay, so this is going to bring me into the other little big thing of this week's episode, is the fact that we saw at the end of last week's episode that Gemma found out about the letters that, you know, John sent to Maureen. Was that her name? Yeah, Maureen, over in Belfast. And she was once again, something I didn't expect to happen so soon. She was able to narrow it down to Tara. I thought she was going to confront Tara in this week's episode about that, but apparently she didn't. But she has narrowed it down to Tara, so she knows. And she knows that Tara knows. And I think she suspects that Jax knows. I think she suspects that he knows. But, of course, Jax doesn't know. But other than that, well, of course, there was the whole thing about, you know, the Russians and the whole thing with Jax and Opie. But honestly, I mean, you know, that was a one-episode bit. It's not really that big of a thing to expound upon. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of leave it at that. Because, like I said, you know, one thing that I do want to do in these reviews, while I am recapping for the most part, I also want to leave stuff out so that you all, those of you who haven't seen the episode yet, will feel intrigued to go and check the episode out. So yes, there is a very nice little storyline, very nice little thing that happens between Jax, Opie, and some disgruntled Russians. So let's see. I think that about covers it. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap this video up. My final thoughts on the episode, once again, it was a really good episode. Had me on the edge of my seat, it really did. A couple of the scenes, like the whole, you know, when Gemma was going through Tara's bag, when she actually found the letters, that I was waiting for Tara to come through the door on that one. And also, you know, the thing with former Mayor Oswald. I think, what's his first name? Emmett? I think that's his first name. Emmett Oswald, the former mayor. The conversation with him and Clay, that was really good. That was really, really good. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. Wade is back, and he's sticking around. So I'm glad that he's made it out of his sorrows. You know, the shit can that we found him in last week. And like I said, you know, the assistant attorney, I really do enjoy his character. I am really liking him. He is probably out of all of the new characters that they introduced, he's probably my favorite right now. It's a tie between him and Romeo, Danny Trejo's character. Those are the two that I'm really enjoying. But yeah, the sheriff, man, he lost brownie points this week because what he did, that was just bitch made. That was some bitch assness right there. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna wrap this review up. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. And once again, I apologize for my absence over the weekend. But, you know, Mother Nature got the best of me, and she is a ruthless bitch. She is to be feared and respected. You know, do not take her lightly. And I have not. I've been drugged up all weekend, and you can probably even hear it in my voice. I'm still a little congested, still a little sore throat, but I'm roughing through it, you know. So, no biggie. Okay, so later this week, I have Thundercats review coming out on Friday. I am actually going, I'm still planning to do my rant on new YouTubers. That is still coming. And that will probably be this weekend, along with my NFL recap video, the first. I'm just going to go ahead and start off at week 2. Just going to go ahead and start it off at week 2. But with that said, this is Larry Williams. Oh, also, Rogues Gallery Incorporated, the favorite hero, favorite villain segment it is now. Once again, want to remind you guys about Rogues Gallery Incorporated, my collab channel, where the new home of the favorite hero, favorite villain segment. So be sure to check those out. Those will be up Saturday and Sunday. But with that said, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.